thing. It's the mindset.
Yeah, sure.
And from our interaction, actually, from the previous year, teachers are enthusiastic about the curriculum, and we'll do our best to reach them through a variety of means. The networks, the Association of Secondary School Head Teachers of Uganda, ASHU. We also work with the associations of teachers themselves, and every opportunity we get, we'll be able to share this knowledge. I should also mention that given that this is not a radically new curriculum, all they need is some orientation to be able to carry on. And some of the teachers, by the way, have had prior exposure with the competence-based curriculum at all levels.
I'm just thinking out loud. You had mentioned that the competence-based started in from the primary in 2000, moved to the A level, then also now the A level is in it. Do you hope to also move it to the university? But just hold it right there as I come. But here's the question that I'm bringing. Did you people do like a pilot something before you roll this out nationally?
Okay, there are specific processes in curriculum development.
Okay.
Number one, you have to do a study to ascertain whether there is a gap, whether you even need to change, or if you're to change, what are the issues. So you have to move around, consult key stakeholders, the teachers, the parents, the learners themselves, the faith-based organizations, the all these key stakeholders. And then you, based on what you find, you're able to make recommendations and pinpoint. And after that, you consult stakeholders again and say, this is what we've come up with. Are you okay with it? You have so, and then you go through approval processes. Now, there is that bit of piloting. It's at that stage, perhaps, where you could say, let's do a pilot. So yes, there have been areas where we've piloted, but then they've also been areas where we've not had opportunity to pilot based on existing
What are some of those areas, if you could mention them?
For instance, the new lower secondary curriculum, there was no specific pilot in the sense of you go roll it out first and then you observe. If you recall, the new lower secondary curriculum came out in 2020, and I think it was February 18th, and a few days later we went into lockdown. So you do not have opportunity, and as so we opened 2 years later in February 20, no, in January 2022. So by the time you're getting of piloting, and there is already a gap, there is already a hunger. But yes, you can pilot, but there are also instances where you can, as long as you've gone through these preliminary processes, you roll it out and then you improve, you work on improving as you go along.
Now there is something, taking us back to the teachers. You talked about mindset change and how important it is. Are there some teachers that are finding a challenge with adopting this new A-level curriculum?
I think it was early this week or last week, NCDC unveiled the A-level curriculum materials online last week, and we shared with the public that please come and download these materials. So many of them had access to these materials, and the reactions have been varied. Many have appreciated the effort and the changes, and then I had one of them call and say, okay, fine, you're saying we are not going to change the textbooks, but we don't see generic skills in textbooks. And you know, generic skills, like I said, under competency-based learning, one of the changes is we are saying it's not only about the content now. For you to build a whole learner, you're looking at the 21st century skills. Can you able to communicate? You can have this knowledge, but can you communicate it?
Sure.
Are you able to work with your colleagues, like we are seated here as a team? Can you live in harmony with others, diversity and multiculturalism? I mean, we study in our own spaces here, but life happens and one has opportunity to work in another space. So how do you fit in? And then there are these values, national unity, patriotism, your love for your country. So some of these, you know, you have to make sure that they are ingrained in what you're teaching, in what you're sharing with the learners.
Maybe on top of that, I have a question. Because you said the new curriculum, it's all about case studies and a lot that has to be done, yes. Are there any policies that you put into existence which will support the students with disabilities?
Yes. Actually, the A-level curriculum and even the competency-based curriculum at lower secondary is strong on special needs education. Inclusive learning, by the way, is one of the sustainable development goals. You leave no one behind.
Okay.
So as NCDC, in all the materials that we produce, we endeavor to adapt that material to support learners with visual impairment, like brailing. Okay. We also do conduct orientation for teachers of learners with special needs. We, for instance, at lower, in the new lower secondary curriculum, learners with special needs don't study physics, biology, chemistry as independent subjects. It's general science. Okay. So you don't make it too complicated for them, so that they are able, they could have the knowledge, but because of the circumstances around them, they are not able to perform like the others. So you're mindful of that. So there's training, there's materials, periodically working with key stakeholders like NODIPU, Kentalis, the organizations that support them.
It looks like it's more like the international curriculum, actually. Did you pick something from the international curriculum?
All I could say is in the process of curriculum development, we do benchmark. We look at best practices elsewhere within the region and even sometimes outside. So these help us to be able to tell whether to determine how far we need to go in a particular area.
What percentage does it carry to the overall, maybe UNEB assessment? And can you walk us how it is like for a senior 5? I'm assuming that I'm going back to senior 5. This is what I should expect today. There will be maybe public speaking classes. There will be co-curriculum, maybe painting, something close to that.
Okay. At the moment, maybe I should mention this, that we are now working on assessment modalities. So our specialists with the panel members, these are highly experienced teachers who have taught maybe a subject over time. And then the other experts are sitting to look at how this assessment is, along with UNEB, by the way, because the mandate for assessment is largely UNEB, but we work together. So we are sitting together to say, okay, this is how we are going to assess. But by and large, it's going to be different. Yes. So now, at an appropriate time, we'll be able to share that.
There is something that has been happening in our education system where there's been a lot of competition between schools. this is the best, this is the first, these are the best
students. The giant schools.
The giant schools. And it has brought in a lot of contention and competition, and on top of that, hiking school fees. Do you think this education, the reforms that are being made are going to be able at least to control that?
Thank you so much. I wish to say that under competency-based learning, the focus is on you as an individual, you as a learner. Your biggest competition, your greatest competition is not your neighbor, it is you. What am I doing today that will make me better tomorrow? And the moment you instill that in a learner, it helps to create a level playing field, because the learner is able to discover themselves. It propels them. If you give them an environment where they can ask questions, they can probe, they can investigate, okay? It, in the end of the day, allows learners to be, you know, and that's what we are trying to do. In the long run, all this, I don't want to call it hype, but because schools are our key stakeholders, and but the whole idea is, can a learner in a rural setting express themselves? Can they contribute? Because at the end of the day, you're saying that your goal is to make sure that this person who completes the 4 years of lower secondary is employable, has skills that can sustain them. At HSC, the same. Because to tell you the truth, given the competition and the circumstances you're talking about, there is pressure on the market. If everyone is saying, I am the best, I am the best, I am the best, and then it's like a funnel, there is pressure getting into the crowded.
There is something that I have noticed as you were saying that. Do you think we shall reach or get to that point where I am in Nakapiripirit and I can study from here, and I am sure I am getting the same standard of education, and it is all around. We don't need to move, because the thing what has been happening is that someone from Mbarara comes to Kampala because they are looking for that one school they think is the best. Now, do you think this reform is going to keep people in one place? Because I know of a curriculum, that an international curriculum, that even if you get you go to Kenya, Nairobi, what you have been doing, the persons will talk to you, you will do your work, and it is okay. You will continue as a learner. Do you think this reform in our system as Uganda will keep people in one place?
I'll answer it twofold. One, it's our aspiration that we bridge the gap. A learner in Nakapiripirit, for example, we are saying if you're doing a project, a learner in an urban space who has opportunity to work with computers, can do coding, can do basic ICT, can do something that they become proficient in over time. But a learner in Nakapiripirit could also have an idea that is transformative. There is a school, I think in the eastern region, where these students found a way to harness the sun to develop a solar,
a solar panel.
I think a solar dryer or something. If you go to these schools, learners are doing amazing things and using locally available materials. Even if we don't go very sophisticated, in agriculture, we visited a school in Adjumani in West Nile, and they have established kitchen gardens. So what they do is they grow tomatoes, they grow vegetables, they grow cocoyam, and at the end of the harvest, they sit with the bursar and they purchase these items. So they prepare these same vegetables for the learners to eat. You're solving a nutrition problem. But the learners, in the process of doing the agriculture, you're learning how to do gardening using rows. You're gaining the knowledge in agriculture, the plant cycle. You're able to touch and feel. Communication, because they work in groups. They have group 1, group 2, group 3. So there is teamwork. So it's a combination of skills. By the time they finish that one project, they know how to relate well with one another. They have some financial literacy skills, because they know how to budget, how to go and buy materials. So, you know, a learner who has gone through that system, there's something different about them. So over time, there is a learner here, I think it's Chivuli SS, who had a challenge. Each time they walked to school with their books, they would get wet. It was during the rainy season. So he looked at this mineral water bottle, big one, and he carved it out into a school bag.
Wow. Mr.
I think that 5, is it 20 liters?
Yes,
20 liters.
yes. I think, I'm not sure about the...
I think it's the 5
but I saw it here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, on that note,
Problem solved.
over and over again, we've seen foreigners coming to Uganda to study here. How does our curriculum compare to the other East African countries? Is there any relationship?
One, I would mention that for a long time, Uganda has been a hub for learning at different levels. At my undergraduate, we had so many people coming from Kenya, from Tanzania, actually even in high school. So it shows that there is something good about our curriculum, in spite of some of the gaps, the old one. But today, there is a gradual shift towards competency-based. Kenya is doing competency-based learning. They started around 2017. Rwanda is doing the same. Tanzania is doing the same. So Uganda is here. So even in the wider region, there is a realization that no, especially we who were for a very long time under colonial rule, we carried on those ravages for a long time. So it's perhaps a way of shedding off those reins and making sure that the learner today is one, yes, you have the knowledge, but most importantly, you can apply it in a real world situation. And also that you have values that allow you to coexist with other people. It's very important. You can be very brilliant, but very poor when it comes to social skills.
Mr. Mwavale, do you know Luganda?
A bit of it.
A little. Okay, so what I'm thinking is, how can you help a parent or a parent understand, because they're used to grades, 20 points, an A or a B, first grade. Help them understand, because this time around when the O-level results came out, big schools were mentioning the A's they've got, they were in shock. The least expected performed better than those who are the whats. And so can you draw more light in that particular direction?
One, just to mention that it's a culture that we've inherited over the years. If I'm a parent, I would ask myself, when does learning begin?
Sure.
We always have this saying that charity begins at home. If you are a parent, I believe from as early on in life, from the exposures you allow your child to see, to feel, to touch. In my cradle, where I come from, we say that the first teacher is the word don't. So because when you're raising a child, you're telling them, don't touch, don't go here, don't. So that's the first teacher. The words you speak into your child's life, the messages you share with them, the people you interact with, they're able to see and decode. So that's the reason a parent is a key stakeholder, and would like them to come on board, would like them to show interest, would like them to be present in their children's lives, would like them to reach out to us wherever they have a challenge. So regarding this comparison and the grading, the whole hullabaloo about grading, as a parent I would ask myself, my child has been through school for 4 years.
Yes.
How different are they from when they started?
Oh, yeah.
What can they do? If you've done 4 years, I want you to show me what can you do. That's the question you should ask them.
Okay.
It is not about who is who has had this score, who has who has an A, who has a B. No. What can you do with your own life?
Oh, yeah.
And a few weeks ago I asked my daughter, if I wasn't here, if your mother wasn't here, how would you navigate? Just create a scenario.
Sure.
Okay.
How old is your daughter?
She's 15.
Oh, that's at least
Now,
Senior two.
there is something you're bringing on board again. You've talked about parents being key stakeholders
Yes.
in this.
Yes.
Our mindset as parents.
Yes.
Do you think it's going to be easy for us to change and adopt to this? Because, man, parents are the ones, by the way, fueling
Yes.
this competition thing.
Much of the jam you see around the city center, there are some schools when the day they close, at least 2 roads will be cut off.
True.
The day they open,
2 roads are
okay,
Very true.
in a specific area, and part of that is because of we as parents. Because if I make a conscious decision to say, I am going to ask parent X, parent, why don't we support our school? Our children are here. Can we go and meet the director or the head teacher? How can we help you? Okay? But everyone is doing it individually.
Sure.
I want my child to be the best. But your child is going to fit into a society. So you need to hold the hand of the other parent. You need to be as involved. We have this tendency to say, okay, I've played my part, I've paid the fees, I've taken you to school.
Mr. Tadeo, are you okay? When you talk about parents, are you trying to show us as parents that we should focus more on actually talent grooming as well?
Yes.
Because if I know what my child is good at, and actually when you look at the schools lately, if there is any talent that they try to groom, it's in sports.
Yes.
And basically football.
Yes.
And maybe basketball, but not so.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like you're crying out to the parents to groom the children's talent.
Please.
That just in case tomorrow
Yes.
I'm not around.
Yes.
How is the child going to survive?
Yes,
I remember a student who told me their teacher asked them that if your parent died today, what would you do? And they asked them to check themselves, what are you good at? For her, she said, I can cut people's nails. I think I would
Wow.
survive.
Wow.
Because she felt like she can cut her nails well, so she can. And that was senior 3, that's 15
Really
years
good.
old. It looks like as if it's a very small thing,
Thank you.
but it can make money.
Yes.
I mean, cutting nails right now, how much
That's
does it
good.
cost in a
my
salon?
dear.
Like 5,000.
You see? So
Cutting
if you do
nails.
10 people a day, you have a 50K.
50,000. Exactly. Okay, that's a nice one.
And then also we have a tendency as parents, I don't know, to think, determine the destinies of our
Gotcha.
children.
How?
So you're trying to focus your child into a direction where they are not. I'll give you 2 examples as I conclude. Number one is a former colleague of mine called, you've heard of Joseph Opio? Joseph Opio.
Opio.
Joseph Opio used to be a colleague of mine at Vision Group. He used to work, host a show, LOL, on Urban TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay?
I know.
So he completes university, we were together at undergraduate at Mungu. And he was this guy but he was studying law. So when his colleagues would move around putting on suits, he was in his sandal, just hanging around. And then after school, I think he worked with the law firm, and he quit. He said, no, me, I want to do sports. There was no guarantee for salary, so he was just there freelancing. But at the end of the day, he decides to, he says, I love comedy, I'm passionate about comedy. So he says, please give me a show, 30 minutes or whatever. So he would write, produce, and present the show himself. Then he heard of an opening in South Africa. Trevor Noah by then was a big,
so listening for people. Wow.
Yes. So he goes and he does an interview, and Trevor says, this is the guy I want.
Wow.
Coincidentally, Trevor Noah, I think the Daily Show, I think Jon Stewart, he leaves the show. And they open. So Trevor Noah auditions and is given. He says, I want to go with my team. So Pio goes to
My producer.
So in a few months, Opio had an apartment in New York, and I think he would ferry his family to.
Where is
for
he
like
now?
A month. He's there.
In the US?
Yes.
Susie wants to go
Definitely,
to the
I
US.
want him
Please.
to be my friend.
Please. Then there is also another guy called, is an artist. So he completed a degree in industrial and fine art, Makerere. And after for about 2 years, he was at home, just doing his sketches. And then he did some, he had a residency at the, I think, Normal Gallery for some time. The late general gave him space. He did some works there. Now, at the end of his residence, there was this very nice painting he had done. And the general told him, you know what? I'm going to buy this painting from you. He says, no, it's not for sale. He says, young man, I'm giving you 1 million shillings. He says, I'm sorry, sir, not for sale. So he packs and goes back home. And the parents, you've trained this child for all these years, and then 2 years they're at home, they are waking up, eating your porridge, and they're doing, and your job, get a job. So he was painting, and someone sees it. I think it was a couple in one of those in Australia, and he says, I want to buy this one. He says, no, it's not for sale. So the man says, I'm giving, how much? Name your price. Says $10,000, jokingly. Guy says, okay, I'll be in Kampala next week and go to do what they want. But that man now is in places. Where do you get that? So he identified his passion. He identified something he was proficient at. That is the competence. Instead of pushing, that's why in project they'll ask you, what are you good at?
Exactly.
Maybe that is where that will give you a stepping stone to hone your skills in a particular area.
Yeah, one young lady told me, a quick one. One young lady told me recently when I was grunting about something, told me, find that one thing that you are good at. Perfect it.
Yes.
And let the other noises be in the background.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Tadeo, we are drawing to the close of this show, but I wish it was an extension of more 2 hours.
No problem.
And what message do you have for people that are watching us, especially what should we expect with this new A-level curriculum in the future, maybe 10 or 5 years to come?
Okay. Thank you, our viewers. My humble appeal to all our stakeholders, the parents, the teachers, the school administrators. The change is here. We can't run away from it. Education, as we perceived it many years ago, or even just a few years ago, is different. Support these programs, support this journey. Let us work together to ensure that we produce a Ugandan citizen who will contribute to a better world. Thank you.
But now, Mr. Tadeo, so in a nutshell, can we say this is an overhaul of the education system in Uganda?
I wouldn't call it an overhaul because when you say it's an overhaul, it means you're dismantling everything. And that is next to impossible in the current. But we have gradual incremental changes that lead us to that destination. An education system that benefits all and that is in tune with the times, with the changing times. You can never be in a space where you say, we are there.